Welcome to Something Came from Baltimore, the show. Today we're chatting with Kat Edmonson.
Go to sleep, slumber deep, drift away.
Welcome to another episode of Something Came from Baltimore. I am your host, Tom Gouker, and tonight on the phone is jazz vocalist Kat Edmonson. Kat calls herself a vintage pop singer, and while her previous recordings have polished her ability to create an authentic retro soundscape, it was just a matter of time that she was going to take her masterful skills and start to dig into the American songbook. Kat Edmonson's new recording, Dreamers Do, is focusing her attention on the wonderful world of Disney. Classics from Cinderella, Pinocchio, and Mary Poppins, to name a few, get the specialized vintage pop makeover that only Kat Edmonson can do. Dreamers Do was released February 7th, 2020, and I was able to get her on the phone before she starts her world tour to promote the album.
Something came from Baltimore.
I give myself very good advice, oh, but I very seldom follow it. And that explains the trouble that I'm always in.
Kat Edmonson, welcome to Something Came from Baltimore.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You are coming to the Hamilton soon on March 26th, and you have Ram's Head in Annapolis on March 28th. And I know you're getting ready for your tour.
Yes.
I have to admit that this is a really fantastic album. I received it on Friday, just like everyone else, and I've been listening to it all weekend, and it's, to me, is very special. I think you did a really great job with it.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted that you feel that way.
Your previous albums were original songs written by you that paid homage to this recording era, this special recording era. This is your first album of covers that you focus your attention on movies and Disney in particular.
Actually, my very first record, this is my fifth record. My very first record was all covers. And the history of my career started with the American Songbook, which I think is probably apparent in the music that I write. I'm always referencing that, and it's just my greatest influence. So the songbook is very much a part of my daily life. It's I listen to other interpreters of that music, and my choice for singing these Disney songs actually had to do with a song that I had written, Too Late to Dream, that's on this record. There are only two original songs on this album, and I wrote it sincerely asking the question, is there a point in our lives in which it is too late to dream? And when I was pondering that, I started referencing the music that I heard very early on in my childhood that was from Disney movies, where we all heard these messages that when you wish upon a star, your dreams come true, and a dream is a wish your heart makes, and no matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on believing, a dream that you wish will come true. And these were very strong messages that so many of us received at such an early age. And incidentally, we're being written by the men, the composers. I say men, I mean there was an occasional woman, but the people that were composing the music that we now know as the Great American Songbook. So this music very much is a part of that. And I'm passionate about this music. I know it so well. It's almost inherent in the music that I make. These melodies and the sounds on the recordings. So it's really fun to dive back into all of this repertoire.
Or is it too late to dream? Am I no longer free? Am I caged by my age? And is this the last stage when I know soon no more to shine, but give way to a day that isn't mine? Will it pass me by before my time? Is it too late to dream?
My 14th question was about Too Late to Dream. I wrote, this is a perfect song for this album where it's a lullaby with surreal cloud-like arrangements. How's that?
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I wanted to capture the essence of the question that the song asks, am I caged by my age? Is it too late to dream? And then one hears the sounds of celeste and very like lullaby instrumentation that we were introduced to as children. And I wanted to evoke the feeling of a child almost asking that question, because there's an immediate poignance to that a child would ever ask that. We would never want a child to ask, is it too late to dream? And yet we all face at some point in our lives that question, I think, maybe on a regular basis, maybe if you're lucky, only every now and then. But oftentimes between taxes and dishes and all the things that we're trying to do and accomplish in our adult lives, it can feel like maybe that's just for children.
One of the ideas is that your dreams are more for optimistic future, and the songs were not really like I dream for my perfect spouse or my husband, like I wish for that man to come into my life. It was more on the lines of like a really optimistic viewpoints, and that's to me is really refreshing.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to accomplish in the making of this record, every song on the album is on the subject of dreams. And actually, the song takes place over the course of a single night, going to sleep and waking up the next morning, as a metaphor for what it is to experience our dreams throughout our life. And that's very abstract as I hear myself saying that. But everyone can relate to dreams. It's part of our human experience. And it's interesting that you touched on longing, because we refer to that as dreaming. But then we also refer to the visions that we have for the future as dreaming. And those things evoke different emotions. The longing can evoke a despair or a sense of lack, a worry. And that's brought up in the record in other songs, because our associations with dreams are so vast. I mean, it ranges everything from wonder and joy to fright, absolute fear and anxiety, and sadness and despair, and then also great peace.
What was that noise? The creaking of the floor. Can't remember now if I locked the door. Is someone in the house? Don't know perhaps I should. I could get up and see, but I don't want to go.
When you were talking about anxiety, you must be talking about someone's in the house, and that to me is the first time I heard it. I was like, oh, she's really pouring out her internal Bjork. Like, there's a lot of vocal gymnastics that you're doing on this song. It's a home run. I would say that this is probably one of my favorite songs off this album.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the point that the song comes up in the album, it happens also in the arc of the story. At that point in the night when one wakes up in the middle of the night, having heard a sound, and A, you're not sure if the sound came from, if you dreamt it or if you really heard it, and then B, if the sound came from somewhere in my house, who created it, who or what created it, and the path that the mind goes down, which is full of anxiety, right? So I put that at the point in the album when one's mind begins to race, and then it's hard to go back to sleep, and then there's a lot of restlessness and fear. And incidentally, as I wrote that song, I wanted to authentically convey what it is to feel that. And so every time I sat down to work on it, I made sure that it was when I was home alone, late at night. and I gave myself a good fright several times working on that tune, and also just had a ball. So much fun.
This album to me feels expensive, and I mean it by the production value is very strong. In this modern day, it's really easy to kind of go into a Pro Tools kind of world. This album feels lush, and the instrumentation is pretty awesome. I'm curious if you had everyone real close by. Was everyone in the room when you were doing this? How do you collaborate with your musicians?
Thank you. I like my musicians as close as possible. Sometimes it's hard to accomplish that when we're recording. The ideal scenario is if we can all be in the same room together. That's really ideal. That doesn't always work for certain reasons. For time's sake and efficiency's sake, and you mentioned cost, or how the record sounded expensive, it can be very expensive to record all in the same room, because if there's anything that you want to change, you actually have to do another complete take. Whereas if you are all sort of within the same room and you're isolated within various booths with windows looking at one another so you can still kind of see each other, you can accomplish getting an isolated recording while listening to each other and feeling like you're interacting with one another. And then, for instance, if someone plays something that they didn't like, they can then singularly go and overdub that one track over the recording. So that's often the route that we take. My last record, Old Fashioned Gal, was mostly all in the same room. This record, we definitely had to do isolation because there were over 40 instruments on the album, and there were so many moving parts that it was necessary to isolate everyone. But again, we could all see each other. There's glass windows, so we can all look through and kind of watch each other's expressions and movements and see where everyone's beginning and ending with the phrases and things. So we feel together.
1, 2, 1. A dream is a wish that your heart makes when you're fast asleep. In dreams you will lose.
Amy Winehouse was like a jazz singer who was like doing a mashup. She was taking the past and kind of infusing it with the present. And you are fully committed to that sound of that era, and you refuse to sound kitschy at all. I mean, how do you get your band to be on your page and your vision?
I love old music, and it comes through my music, but I don't love old music for novelty's sake. So first, it all begins with the intention. The reason why my music is reminiscent of past decades is because that's my greatest influence. It's like if you grew up with your grandma in the next room and you spoke to her every day, she would be one of the people that influenced what you thought and what you said and what you liked. And so for me, this music is the thing that I focused on so much for so many years, and still do, that it's natural to me. It's in my nature to make these sounds. As far as recruiting other people to make these sounds with me, it starts in the hiring, and I'm very particular about who I play with. They have to have the right sensibility, and all of the guys and ladies that played on this album. My immediate band is all guys. We're drums, bass, guitar, and piano. But then, as I mentioned, there's over 40 musicians on this record, so everyone involved has a strong sensibility and has a sophisticated sensibility, and does not approach the music in a kitschy or novel kind of way. So everyone is intimately familiar with the music that I'm referencing, really. And also, I guess that my intention is quite apparent when we're in the studio. I'm not shy about saying what I want and what I need and what's not working. So I think that helps guide us through the session.
When I was listening to this album, I got super nervous because I feel like your research on this album is intense, because the production value is like spot on. And it seems like you're studying, I'm just naming off some people that I see references of, like Doris Day or Peggy Lee or Blossom Dearie, Rosemary Clooney, and Keely Smith. And I think I'm hitting some of those influences, but if there's other ones, am I hitting some of them or what?
Yeah, in fact you are. That's lovely, actually, because those were some of my earliest musical influences. That's who my mom was playing around the house, with the exception of Blossom Dearie, who I didn't learn about until I started my career and people started making vocal comparisons to her. And then I began checking her out, and I totally fell in love with her. And I would think that her sound and her sensibility comes through my music because I think so much about her now. But other people, well, Joni Mitchell was an inspiration on this record. I guess I thought of her a lot when we were making Someone's in the House, and also on Second Star to the Right, a later track in the record.
Okay, so I am in love with all your album covers. We're talking about your album, but the album covers, you take so much time. They represent like previous album covers from the past. You never duplicate. You always are doing your own thing. Is this your vision? Is it a group of people that are doing this? Because they're all awesome.
Thank you. It's always been my vision until I began to work with Maria Marulanda, who made the album cover for The Big Picture. And that was entirely, I did the shoot and we conceptualized the shoot, the photo shoot. But Maria has been my album designer since The Big Picture. She did the cover for Old Fashioned Gal, and she did Dreamers Do. And we always start, or at least in the last two records, we start with my concept or my vision, and I'll offer up the photo and say what it is that I'm looking for. And then she puts it together in the most beautiful presentation. she's very talented, and she does a lot of really big albums, and so I'm always grateful when I get the chance to work with her.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you.
The song When You Wish Upon a Star is so familiar, and I had no idea anymore that was from Pinocchio because it's so universal. It seems to be like the most current arrangement and a moody arrangement. Is this something that you're pushing for, like a AAA format radio? Is this going to be a single of yours for this album?
You know, I'm not pushing it to AAA radio. It's even like, you know, college radio stations now, or that kind of radio format. They're playing like a lot of really loud, like rock music, like heavy drums or big strummy guitars. And so even though this is a poppier side of the record, for sure, I think, you know, comparatively in that landscape, maybe it would get swallowed up. But the song is very danceable in an adult sort of way. in a kind of mellow, with your glass of wine, you know, chilling out sort of way. And it evokes a mystery. It's When You Wish Upon a Star is a song that we all know. It's ubiquitous. And we all know it to be this very tender, warm and fuzzy song that comes from early on in our lives. And Cliff Edwards' voice is the voice of Jiminy Cricket on that. It's a wonderful old musician who was famous for singing and playing the ukulele in the 30s. And if you listen carefully to his recording, it sounds somewhat haunting, actually. The reverb on his voice is rather haunting, actually, when you're not watching it along with an animated picture. And so I wanted to start there and show that when you follow your dreams, it's wonderful and it's hopeful, and it's also frightening to sort of embark out into the woods by yourself at night, if you will. That was the image I kept getting. It's like when you follow your dreams, it's a rather blind pursuit. You're following a knowing and perhaps a feeling, but there's no promise of anything, and you don't have guideposts, but you're looking for them. And so it can be wonderful and mysterious and also a little bit scary.
In the World of My Own has a solo. It starts out with a violin at the beginning, but then there's a solo And I am going like, is that a violin or is that?
It's a theremin. It's this electronic instrument. It looks like it's a little electronic box and what looks like a lightning rod coming out of it. And the player literally plays the air. He's playing the sound waves and manipulating them.
He puts his hand over top of it and kind of moves it around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
Actually, it's to the side of it. And it's fascinating to watch because it looks like absolute magic. And this player in particular, who's a rather world-renowned theremin player, his name's Rob Schwimmer. He is rather magical himself.
Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiree. A sweep is as lucky can be. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiroo. Good luck will rub off when I shake hands with you. Or blow me a kiss.
You really incorporated steel drums and Chim Chimmery, which I thought was pretty special and original also. And what made you think of doing steel drums?
I don't know. That was just inspiration. It just was there in my mind, and I followed it. Sometimes I just get ideas. A lot of times, I don't know where they come from, and I just follow them.
Have you contacted Disney at all and let them know that you have this wonderful album out here? They're doing so many remakes of the original movies, and wouldn't it be great if they incorporated one of your songs?
It would be great. I don't know exactly who to contact over at Disney except the publishers who I needed to get clearance through in order to sell this music. So they're aware. But as far as anyone up in a creative department, I would absolutely love for them to want to utilize this. It's that would be wonderful.
I think we threw out an idea there that maybe someone can grab onto. We put it out there. That was our wish.
Yay.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
Oh, sure.
And I'm so excited that you like the record.
Oh, no. I know. It sounds like a weird. I was going to say first, look, I do interviews, but this is a weird gushing one where, there's nothing but praise. I've listened to in headphones just to hear what you're doing in the background, like what instruments are here and why did you make that decision. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's a really thoughtful album.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kat Edmonson, for speaking to me when Something Came from Baltimore.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Something Came from Baltimore, the show, now on Box.com. Check us out next week where we're chatting with Joey Alexander. His new album is called Warna, and we got 15 minutes to ask 30 questions with him. It's a lot of fun.
What was that noise? The creaking of the floor. I can't remember now if I locked the door. Is someone in the house? Don't know how. Perhaps I should. I could get up and see, but I don't want to go. Did I see something move? A shadow on the wall. What was that? What was that? What was that? I think it's coming from the hall. Someone's in the house. Don't move, don't watch, don't breathe. And maybe they will go.
You can listen to Something Came from Baltimore anytime since it's a podcast. And we are on iTunes, Anchor, and YouTube, and a ton of other platforms. Subscribe and stay in touch.